Today we are going to be doing lesson 5, which is multiplying fractions. So we're going to start off again with some vocabulary terms, some review from previous lessons. So the first one is numerator. The numerator is the number above the line in a common fraction. Okay, this is the number that shows how many parts there are. So I'm going to highlight numerator in blue and highlight that over here too, just as another visual. Okay, and then our next term is denominator. So the denominator is the number below the line in a common fraction. This one shows how many parts we divide the whole into. So I'm going to take my second highlighter, highlight denominator in pink as another visual. Okay, then we have mixed number, a number that contains both a whole number and a fractional part. So here's some examples over here. And then improper fraction, a fraction where the numerator is greater than or equal to the denominator. We have some examples over here. Okay, so our steps for simplifying fractions are step 1, to simplify the numbers that are diagonal from each other. Okay, so in the past you may have learned to multiply first and then simplify. It's really important that you simplify the numbers before multiplying because it will make your life a lot easier. So I'll get more into how you do that in the first example, but you are always welcome to use your factor chart. Okay, step 2. Actually, I'm going to highlight that here so you don't forget. Use your factor chart. Step 2, multiply your numerators. And then step 3, multiply your denominators. Okay, so I'm going to show you what this looks like in our first example, which is 8/14 times 6/7. Okay, so if you're simplifying first, what you need to do is highlight your numbers that are diagonal from each other. So I'm going to highlight my 8 and my 7 in pink, and I'm going to highlight my 14 and my 6 in blue. Okay, and then I am going to find the GCF of those numbers that are highlighted as a pair diagonally and divide by the GCF. Okay, so I'm going to use my factor chart. I'm going to look at 8 and 7. When I look at both 8 and 7, I can see that their greatest common factor is 1. So I'm going to be dividing by 1. When I check my factor chart and look at 6 and 14, I can see that my GCF is 2, which means I'm going to be dividing both of them by 2. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this right underneath with the simplified fractions. So my first numerator right here, 8 divided by 1 is 8. My denominator, 14 divided by 2 is 7. My next numerator over here, 6 divided by 2 is 3. And 7 divided by 1 is 7. Okay, so now I have simplified fractions. I can do step 2, which is multiply the numerators. So 8 times 3 equals 24, and 7 times 7 equals 49. Okay, so since I simplified before I multiplied, I know that this answer is in simplest form. And that's my final answer, 24/49. Okay, example 2, I have 20/36 times 8/30. Okay, so I'm going to highlight my diagonals. I'm going to do pink and then blue. Okay, so I'm going to look at those pairs and find the GCF using my factor chart. So the GCF of 20 and 30 is 10. So I'm going to be dividing by 10. And the GCF of 36 and 8 is 4. I'm going to be dividing by 4. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this with the simplified fractions. 20 divided by 10 is 2. 36 divided by 4 is 9. 8 divided by 4 is 2. And 30 divided by 10 is 3. Okay, so now I can move on to step 2. I'm just going to multiply my numerators, and step 3, multiply my denominators. So 2 times 2 is 4, and 9 times 3 is 27. Go ahead and flip it over to the back. Now we are going to be multiplying with mixed numbers. Okay, so there's a few more steps involved. So the first thing you need to do is convert mixed numbers, or any of your mixed numbers, to an improper fraction. Okay, then you're going to follow the same steps as the front. You're going to simplify. You can do this by dividing by the GCF. You are allowed to use your factor chart. Then you're going to multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators. Okay, so example 3, we have our mixed number 3 3/4 times 8/9. Okay, so my first step is to convert my mixed number to an improper fraction. So remember, I'm going to multiply my whole number and denominator. 3 times 4 is 12, and then add my numerator. 12 plus 3 is 15, and my denominator is going to stay the same, times 8/9. Now I'm going to follow these same steps. I'm going to highlight my diagonals. So I have 15 and 9, and I have 4 and 8. I'm going to use my factor chart to find the GCF of 15 and 9 first. So the GCF of 15 and 9 is 3, so I'm going to divide both of these by 3. And the GCF of 4 and 8 is 4. So I'm going to divide both of these by 4. So I'm going to rewrite my fractions in simplest form. So I have 15 divided by 3 is 5. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 9 divided by 3 is 3. And then I'm going to multiply across. So 5 times 2 is 10. And 1 times 3 is 3. Your answer is going to be left sometimes as an improper fraction. You do not need to convert back to a mixed number. You can keep your answer like this. Okay, example 4. I have 4 4/15 times 3 4/12. So the first thing I need to do is, now I have two mixed numbers, so I need to convert both of them to improper fractions. So I have 4 times 15 equals 60, plus 4 is 64. And then my denominator is staying the same as 15. 3 times 12 is 36, plus 4 is 40. My denominator stays the same. Now I can highlight my diagonals. So I have 64 and 12, and I have 15 and 40. Going to use my factor chart to find the GCF of 64 and 12, which is 4. So I'm going to divide each by 4. I'm going to look at my factor chart to find the GCF of 15 and 40, which is 5. So I'm going to divide both by 5. I'm going to rewrite these fractions. 64 divided by 4 is 16. 15 divided by 5 is 3. 40 divided by 5 is 8. And 12 divided by 4 is 3. Now I can multiply across. 16 times 8 is 128. 3 times 3 is 9. Example 5, I have 4 1/4 times 6. Okay, so I need to convert these to improper fractions. Okay, so for 4 1/4, I have 4 times 4 equals 16, plus 1 is 17. My denominator stays the same. And when I have a whole number, to make this an improper fraction, I just need to put this whole number over 1. So this becomes 6 over 1. I'm going to highlight my diagonals. 17 and 1, and 4 and 6. I'm going to use my factor chart to find the GCF of 17 and 1, which is 1. So I'm just going to be dividing by 1. And then the GCF of 4 and 6 is 2. So I'm going to divide each by 2. I'm going to rewrite this here. So I have 17 divided by 1 is 17. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And 1 divided by 1 is 1. I'm going to multiply across. 17 times 3 is 51. And 2 times 1 is 2. So for your you try, you have 2 and 10/14 times 1 and 13/22, right? Good luck.